All right, I'm going to continue on. I don't think this will take very long this morning, at least I hope it doesn't. So ideally, you're going to have about pretty close to 3 hours to work on, if you're still working on the second worksheet. And I've started to grade them. I haven't gotten very far, to be honest with you. So you will get them back, but I'm just not sure exactly when. All right, what we're going to create in this particular one, and again, I've got it right here, is this time we're going to have 3 different queries that we're going to run. This first query, and it's kind of hard to see it from right here, but it says, show me all of the employees, all right, but show me them in sorted order based on, I don't remember what it was, but we'll look at it in just a minute. I guess it says by salary, but that doesn't look right with the numbers that I've got at the bottom here. Those shouldn't be there, they should be up here, and I'm not sure why they're not. So then we're going to fill by department number, which says basically all I want is everybody who works in Department 1 or Department 2. And then finally, we're going to ask for the average salary. All right? So again, I do have them completed. If you want to follow along, fine. If you want to just watch, I'll give you a copy of it in a little bit. All right? But the first thing that I want to do is, again, I want to take my Acme test, and we're going to want to take it and copy it to Acme Test 6. I should mention this first. This is on the first page that I gave you. These are called table adapter queries. They're the ones that are right in here. All right. What you get by default is this fill get data. What that one says is once you link up a details view or a grid view or something else, and you actually tell the system to go and fill it up when you run the program, that's what runs automatically. What we're going to do today is we're going to do these 3. The first one, and they're in alphabetic order as you can see, or at least, yeah. The first one is called fill by salary. And if you look at it, okay, it won't let me look at it, but we're going to write it, and essentially all that it is what you see right here. Select star from the employees table, order by the salary in descending order. That's it. All right. Then after we do that one, we're going to do a similar thing with a department number. But what you notice on here is it says select star from employees where department number equal 1 or department number equal 2. We could always change that to say where department number in, and then put in parentheses 1, 2. That would work also. And then finally, we're going to look at the average salary, which is going to run one of the aggregate functions. All right. And again, the way that I'm looking at this, because I have to write this up, I told you this already, and I'm probably not going to get to it till this weekend, but I'm going to write some kind of a project up for you to work on next week. And with that project, you'll be using the products table, the vendors table, and the product vendors table, one or more of those 3 from the sales order example. And you're going to be mimicking what we've been doing in here. All right. And just setting it up, just setting up those 3 tables, all right, that's going to be part of your grade because we've got them already in MySQL, but we're going to have to put them into SQL Server. I will tell you, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but there are actually tools out there. So I can type in, for example, MySQL to SQL Server Converter. All right. And they tell you in here how you can do some conversion work. There are even tools that you can use to do this. The reason I'm telling you that is when you create the tables for products, vendors, etc., there's a little bit more typing than what we just did in the previous, in what we're doing right now in the Acme example, just so you know that. All right. So, as always, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to actually close this one that I've been working on. Throw that in here. And I'm going to copy, and I've been doing this the same way every time. I'm copying Acme test, and I'm going to paste it in, and I'm going to call this Acme Test 6. I'm going to open that up. Again, you've seen this countless times now. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to choose Project, Add New Data Source. Notice it's not chosen right now for whatever reason. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So again, I click New Connection. Make sure the database type is set up all right. Click Browse. This is off my desktop, and it's Acme Test 6. There it is. So now I've got the database in there. Okay, I can always test the connection if I want to. It succeeded, which is good. Now that's in here. Go to Next again. The connection string is fine. I want to come in here, and as I have been doing, now come in and under Tables, choose Employees, rename this Employees Data Set, and click Finish. That's not new. That's the same exact stuff that we've been doing. All right. The next thing that I want to do is I want to come in here, and again, you've seen this also. I want, with the form up right here, all right, now I'm going to stretch this form out because I want it to be bigger than it is. Okay, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go in and do a View, Other Windows, Data Sources, okay, and you've seen this before. And I'm going to choose the Employees table, and I want to make sure that it's set to Data Grid View, and I'm just going to drag it over. And there's my Data Grid View. Again, nothing new in there. This is the same stuff that we've been doing. All right. So I've got that all done. I'm resizing it a little bit, so it, as you can see, it is a little bit bigger, which is what I want. All right, I'll move it down here a little bit also. And again, you've seen this before. So I'm going to come in here and anchor this on all four sides. Okay, so that's done. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to add 3 buttons. Just regular buttons. And we'll worry about naming them, and we'll worry about putting in the code and all that other good stuff later. All right? So that's just all the prelim type of work that we had to do. Again, what we're going to be looking at in here right now is this employees dataset .xsd file. All right? And we'll get to that in just a minute. So, all right, we're working with a table adapter query. That's what comes up when you double click that XSD file that we just looked at. All right. The one that you get automatically, the one that's in here right now, and this should make sense to all of you. If I right mouse click and I go to view code here, I've got this line that was automatically put in there for me. That line right there. And that line basically said, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to fill whatever this is hooked up to, which is the data grid view. I want you to fill it with the employees table. Now, hopefully that makes sense to you, all right? Because that's exactly what we want it to do. That query that you see right there, that one, is what you see right there. That's in blue. Notice what it says. Select all the values. So if I do, I don't know if it'll let me right mouse click on it and configure or not. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That's the query that runs. That's the equivalent to select star. All right? But the way that it works here is as it fills it, it automatically brings out each field name. Now, if I didn't want to print, if I didn't want everything to show, let's say, for instance, again, I didn't want the social security number to show, I could remove it from here. I don't want to do that. All right? So I'm just going to cancel out of there. And you see that when I come over here, and again, when I run this, it should be pretty obvious what happens. All right? Again, I can drag this to make it a little bigger, but you get the idea when you take a look at it. All right? So again, That's what we've got right now, but we want to put code behind these 3 buttons to make them do something. The good news is for 2 of the 3 buttons, it's 1 line of code. And with the other button, which will be the last one that's right here, it's about 4 lines of code. So again, we're not talking about putting in a boatload of code. It's interesting. Yesterday, I went down to the St. Louis campus after I left here, and I sat in on Evan's class for about an hour and a half. A couple interesting things about him. He doesn't give breaks like I do. They started at 12:30, and at about 2:05, he gave them a break, which kind of surprised me because it was more than an hour and a half that he went and spoke before he gave them a break. All right. Second of all, he goes over the PowerPoints, where I don't do that. But he does them in a very different way. He'll bring up something in the PowerPoints, and he'll say, now let's look at some code. And that's how he does it. So it was very interesting listening to him and also getting the dynamic. And it was also interesting because there are 9 people in that class. All right? Same number we have in here. So I said, wow, I didn't realize you had a class that was this small. And he said, yeah, the one in the morning has got 24. It's filled. So he's got 2 sections of the same class that he's running, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. All right. So if you do want some explanation of what's happening in here, you can take a look at the write-up on the first page, but I pretty much just went over it with you. So as it says on the second page, in this tutorial, you create an application that displays the employees table from the Acme database. We're going to add 3 queries. And I changed that. I didn't put it in by department because I was having too much problem with that. So we're going to return all the rows sorted by salary in descending order. Then we're going to return the rows for employees who work in either the information technology department or in the web design department. All right. So I've done this. I copied it. I set up everything. I brought the grid view in. So none of that's new. All right. So now it's time to add the first query. This is different. This is something we have not done before. And the way that you do it is like this. So I come back, and again, I bring up this file that you see right here, and I want to add a new query. The way that you do it is you click where it says Employees Table Adapter, and then you right mouse click, and you choose Add Query. Not very hard. All right. Now what it says in here is, what do you want? What do you want to do? We'll look at all of this stuff next semester, but for now, we're just going to be concerned with the first one. Okay? What we'll end up doing is we'll write a bunch of select statements, update statements, insert statements, etc. next semester that we'll use on a regular basis. So rather than having to constantly type those in, we'll save them. All right? And can you save them as a view? Yes, but we'll save them, and we're going to write something that's going to be very generic where we'll save them as into what's called a procedure. And all a procedure is, it's like writing a function. All right, it's the same kind of thing. And you can create new procedures on the fly like this, or you could use existing procedures. But the point is, we just want to use an SQL statement. All right? So we're stepping through, and now what it says is, okay, what do you want? Okay? Do you want an SQL query that returns just a single row? And that's what we'll have for the last one when we do the averaging. Or do you want one that returns multiple rows? Well, what we want is we want to show every employee, but we want to show every employee in order based on salary in descending order. Does that make sense? So in other words, we're going to return 12 records. So we sure as heck wouldn't want to just return a single value. That wouldn't make sense. If we were only returning one row, that might make sense, but we're not. So we want to keep this one. We're not doing an update. We're not doing a delete. We're not doing an insert. So I'm just going to keep the default here, which says select which returns rows. Now it asks what we want. All right. Well, this is the stuff that we had before. I like to space it out a little bit. You can space it out any way you want, but I'm going to put in the end here, not where, order by emp salary, and we'll put that in descending order, and then we'll say emp last name. So in other words, what I'm saying right here, and really this should make sense to you, is I'm saying, show me everything. I want to see everything there is. All right? So again, I can space them all out if I'd want to do that. This is going to be pretty long then, because there's quite a few fields in here. But just so you see everything that's going on. So this is saying, show me every field, all right, every field that I have in here. And when you get done, order them by the salary and make sure the salary is in descending order. And then if there's any salaries that are the same, then go by last name, okay? Very simple query. It really and truly is. It's the same stuff that we've been doing, okay? And they click next again. And now it says this. It says, which methods do you want to add to the table adapter? This is where you give it a name. It's right there. Notice it's called fill by. Well, I'm filling it by salary. Oops. So that's what I changed. I named it was fill by, come on, fill by salary. This one, return a data table? No. We're filling one. We're not returning something. We're creating it on the fly. You would only choose that return a data table if you were working off something you'd already written in a procedure. We're not doing that this semester, so we just check that. Notice that gets grayed out. All right. So again, the steps that I showed you from the top, we came in here and we said specify a select statement to load data. Then we said we only wanted it to return a single row. Then we told it what we want, the query that we wanted it to run. Next, we gave it a name, fill by salary. All right. We click finish. Ideally, when you click finish, it's going to come in here. Sometimes you get a message back that says that it succeeded. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. All right. And if it does fail, you get a failure message telling you why. Why would it fail? Well, take a look up on the screen if you would, please. This morning, because I went and did all this stuff before class, all right, and I forgot I'm using a later version of the database where I put emp in front of everything. So when I ran the query this morning, I ran this query that you see right here, this one. So I ran select all of this good stuff that you see in here. But I said instead of order by emp salary, I said order by salary. It couldn't find a field named salary, so it gave me an error message. All right. So typically when you get an error message, that'll be the reason. You're putting in a field name or a table name, something like that the system doesn't understand. All right. Can you make aliases? Yeah, you can make aliases if you really want to. We're not that concerned with that right now. All right. Now, a couple more things that are in here that I want to mention to you. This right there, what I just clicked on, the fill by salary, here, these are its properties. So you notice it doesn't have many. The command is what we just filled in. That's our query. All right. And then notice it says execute here. It says execute mode. And it says reader, which means it's going to show me that information, but I can't change it. So for lack of better words, it's in a read-only mode. Okay? It's automatically public, and the name that it's going to go by is fill by salary, and it's going to do a fill method. So there's not really that much stuff that it's doing right here. All right? But that's the first one. Okay. So what I just showed you is everything on step 4, step 5, step 6, and step 7. All right? Step 8, and then step 9. So that wasn't really very much. Okay? So let's run another one. And I'll do it even differently than I did this one here, the one that you've got, so just to show you that you can do it in different ways. I'm going to right mouse click on it again, choose add query, again use SQL statements, again select which returns rows, And this time, we'll leave all that stuff in there. In fact, this time let's change it around a little bit. Let's not put in the ID or the social security number. Let's just put in the first name. We don't need the middle initial. So we'll put in the last name, the address, the zip, the department number, the salary. Yeah, that's all fine. We'll do that again from our employees table, but this time we'll say where the department number, so where MDEP number in 1-3. So that says only show me the people who work in Department 1, I think I said 2 in the handout, or who work in Department 2. Now what's going to happen is it's going to order them, but it's going to order them by ID number because I didn't tell it to do any order by. So we're going to come in here, we're going to say order by the department number. So it'll give me the people who work in Department 1 first, then it'll give me the people who work in Department 2. In fact, let's put in another one. We'll put in 1, 2, or 6. All right? But you should be able to look at this. Again, I know I'm spacing it out, but I want you to see everything that's happening here. Now, a natural question for you would be something like, okay, can I just go in there and replace all that stuff with a star? And yes, you're supposed to be able to do it. All right? I didn't even try, but you are, because star means everything. In this case, though, I'm not showing everything, am I? I'm not showing the ID, and I'm not showing the social security number. So in this case, I have to put all of them in. In the last query that we just looked at, we were printing out every field. So you should be able to use a star in there. All right? So that's the second one. So again, I come over just like we just did. I come through here and I say fill by. This time I'm going to say fill by department number. So I'm going to give it a different name. Again, I don't want to return a data table. I click next, and this is what it usually shows. It says, okay, I generated that select statement for you. There were no problems because I got check marks. Again, if there had been an error there, instead of getting these 2 check marks, I would have gotten like a little yellow triangle, which would have said that I had an error, and it would have shown me what the error was. All right? So now, one sec. Yeah, that's okay. Now I've got 2 of them in here. So now I've got fill by department number and fill by salary. Yes?
I've never shown me 2 check marks. The first time I did it said something about cannot parse or something. It didn't show me the error.
Okay, it didn't show you an error? Okay. I've had 3 or 4 different things come up. And unless it was an error, and I've had nothing come up. Unless it was an error, if it said it can't do this, I just clicked OK. And I never had a problem with it when I did that. All right. Let's do one more. So I'm going to again click on here. I'm going to again right mouse click and choose Add Query. Again, use SQL statements. Select which returns rows. This time, all I want to do is I want to select. This one's nice and easy. The average employee salary from employees. Now that's pretty simple. All right, that's all I want. And I think it was $92,717 or something like that. All right, and that's what you'll see in just a couple minutes. Now right now, once I do that and I select the average salary like this, and I click next, and I say here, I'm going to call this fill by average salary. I had a fill by salary before, so I'm going to call that fill by average salary. Click next. Again, it told me that it generated it, and I finish, and it says, with a schema that's different from that in the main memory, check the command text. That should still be okay. What it's, I believe, telling me is, hey, you didn't select every field. You only selected some fields. So it's, for lack of better words, it's trying to warn me about that. So now what I have here, the fill data, that's the one that was generated for me automatically. The fill salary, the fill department number, and the fill average salary are the ones I just did. All right. Now, they are not yet linked up to anything. So I have to link those up to their respective buttons. All right. And when we go back here and we look at this, we didn't do really anything yet with the buttons. All All right, so it's time to do something with the buttons, such as, well, this first one is going to be fill by salary. And the text on the button will be just fill by salary. Remember, I can put blank spaces in the text. So there's the first one. The second one is going to be called fill by department name. I'm going to use the same names that I used before. So there's the second one. And the third one will be filled by average salary. It was interesting, too, the reason I told you that, I went to St. Louis yesterday is he was lecturing on chapter 16 from the book that you'll be using next semester, the Muroc book that I showed you. And a lot of his lecture was on the data grid view. So you're going to see this stuff again next semester is what I'm telling you. All right, so now we've named our buttons. All right, not just fix the text, but we've named them. They're button fill by salary, button fill by department name, and button fill by average salary. So those are now all done. Okay, so what's left? Well, what's left, we've done all of this stuff, so what's left is actually adding the code. All right, and again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. That's it. It's all on the last page. So the first one I want to put in there is this one right here. Hopefully I don't have any errors in here. We're going to find out very quickly. So I'm going to double click on that button, paste that in, and I'll know once I move off of it, if it turns red, I've got an error in there someplace. So far, so good. All right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save and I'm going to run this. So the only one I've got in here now that should work is the first button. Now this is what it gives me by default. This is all of my information. So that's all 12 records. But notice they're not in any kind of order here based on salary. When I click fill by salary, now notice how they're in order, descending order based on salary. And I don't think I had anybody with the same salary, but had we, then they would have been in the next order by last name. That was one line of code. So let's go back and take a look at that one line of code. All right, we're telling it right here, okay, that when you call this routine from this button, what we want to do is we want you to use that fill by salary that we just created, and we want you to run that against our employees table. So run that query against that table. All right, and if you look, if I come back here and we look at, not there, if we look at the next one, it'll be very similar. So if I come back to the second button here and double click on that one and paste, that is a good button, my field department number. It should just be filled by department number. There. Okay. So there was an error. Please look at your code in the handout I gave you. That shouldn't say button there. That should just say fill by department number. So get rid of that if you're going to type it in. I'm sorry. So remove that. All right. So I put that in. That got rid of my error message. I'm going to again save. I'm going to again run. Now again, when you look on the screen here, if I click the first button, it gives me them in order all right, based on cell rate. If I do the second one, oh, no, it doesn't like something in here. Doggone it. Well, I'm going to cheat because I want to give you the right code. So I'm going to go back and look at the other one, which I know already works. And I want to see if this is any different than the one I just gave you. Stop the run. That sure looks identical to me. I know that what I gave you was correct because I've already run it before. Darn it. Well, this is what I'm going to do. Stop the run. Hopefully it'll let me do what I want to show you. And that is, I'm going to go back to this. This is the one that didn't work. Okay, so let's see. When I ran it the first time, I didn't use the in statement. I said where emp department number equals 1 or emp department number equals 2. All right, we'll just leave it right there.
Department number twice after the where?
After the where. Ah, yeah, that's probably it. So let's go back and make that an in again. 1, 2, 6. All right, so next, finish. Thank you for spotting that. So let's see. Still doesn't like it. This employees table adapter filled by department. That's all correct. And that's correct. Fill by dep number. I'll double check, but I know that's what I called it. Fill by dep number. All right. The only thing I can think of that I did differently from the 2 times I did this, all right, cancel, configure, was rather than the in, like I said, I'm going to try it. I'm going to say equals 1 or it's equal to 2. I'm going to do it like that instead of using the in statement. That's the only difference that I made between the two. Next, fill by dep number. That's what I said. Next, okay, finish, save. There is something that's still screwed up with this. I don't know what it is. All I did was I manually retyped it in. Now, if I'm still getting an error, which I am, I don't know what the problem is. But, like I said, I'm going to give you a working copy. I'm trying to figure out what the problem is. Okay? I guarantee you that when you get this assignment next week, I'm going to already have it done. All right? That's why I haven't given you a hard copy of it yet, because I'm still working on it. But everything I ask you to do, you will be able to do. All right? So I'm not sure what the problem is with that one. There is a problem with it. But I want to try the last one, and I want to see if that works, because it's done a little bit differently. So that's the fill by average salary. Now, what we want to have print out there is just a single value. We want it to print out the average salary. All right? So if we look at that one, I think I may or may not have done it correctly, but let's just look. All right? So with this average salary, if we take a look at this, I'm going to go back and configure this right from the front. So I'm going to take it from the beginning. All right, we said use SQL statements, returns. Okay, there's a problem. What's the problem with what's on the screen right now? We want a single value. We're only returning one value, the average salary. So that should look like this. That should be the one checked. All right. Everything else should be okay. Select average salary, fill by average salary, generated it, finish. Okay. Now, it's a little bit different, and again, I gave you the code on the handout, but let me highlight it. It's 3 lines of code, and then there's 3 comments in here also. And now that I look at it, okay, that's fine. I'll run it the way that I showed it to you, but I made a bunch of changes to it while I was working on it, so I'm going to paste that in. It really shouldn't have been called average price. It should have been called average salary, but it's okay. All right. Let's save it, run it, see if it works, and then come back and take a look at each one of those lines. Okay. So what it did was it looked at all 12 employees, it added up all 12 employee salaries, and it divided it by 12. Does that make sense? That's all it did. All right, so let's take a look at the code that made that work. All right. First thing in there, and again, I should have called that average salary instead of average price, but it doesn't matter. All right, so we're creating a variable. Probably to be safe, if I wanted to, I could have set that equal to 0, right? Just to make sure it has a value. Or, true or false, I should be able to combine those 2 lines into one line. I don't see why I couldn't. All right. And then, so again, this is saying what I want you to do is I want you to run that fill by average salary, okay? And I want you to take the results of that and I want you to throw it into here. Notice that since we're only returning a single value, we don't have what we had before. All right? We're not telling it to bring in the whole table. We're telling it to run this query, all right, against our table, but only return a single value. And take that single value and put it into here. And then all we're doing is we're printing it out. That's all. So again, I'm not sure what happened with that second one. But I will tell you, and I'll let everybody copy it in just a minute, because I don't think there's any errors in any of my stuff. But not there. This is the copy that you'll get. And when you look at it, okay, there's everything. Come on. So there's fill by salary. There it is. There's fill by department number. Now, I didn't do an order by on there, but you can see I said you work in department 1 or you work in department 2. So that's all we've got. All right. And then there's the average salary. All right. So that didn't, I realized that didn't take very long. All right. It took even less time than I thought it would. Funny thing is, I'll spend 2 or 3 hours on this, and then sometimes it takes me a half an hour to explain. All right. What we will do tomorrow, and this will be the last one of these, is we're going to write a generic query where we use what are called query parameters. What that means is when we run the program, we will ask the user for input. Once they give us that input, we'll click a button, then we'll use that input to show just what we want to show. For instance, we're going to have something that it's not going to look really a lot like this, but it'll have the details view, but it'll have a couple buttons here and a label. All right? And with the label, you'll put in, for example, a department number. So you put in 6, and then you click the button, and it'll only show you in here the people who work for Department 6. All right? And then if you want it to show everybody again, there'll be another button here that'll be called Show All, or something like that, that it'll show all 12 records. And we could change this any way we wanted to. We could ask the user, what field do you want to look on? The reason that I chose department numbers, we've got several records for each one. Every ID is unique, every social security number is unique, every first name is unique. I don't know about middle initial. Every last name is unique. All right, we could have done it based on address instead of, maybe we'll do that. I haven't finished that one yet. So maybe we'll do it on address instead of department number, or on zip code instead of department number. All right? But every salary we saw is unique, and every hire date is unique. So again, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this working copy that I have that's right here, and I'm going to copy it to the flash drive and let you all copy it. All right? And like I said, that's all I've got for today. And that's good, because I'm going to go on and I'm going to continue to grade the worksheets. I'm not going to put grades in the grade book until all 12 are graded, or all 9 of you rather are graded. And the reason for that is, let's assume, for example, that question number 16, everybody got it wrong. All right, then rather than making it worth 3 points, I'll probably only make it worth a point, something like that. All right. So I don't want to do that until I have everyone's graded, so I can grade all of yours, pretty much on an even basis. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Again, I'll copy this and then I'll send it around. All right, so I'll pass it around right now. Let you pass it around. Again, it's in the folder that's called Acme Test 6.